platforms. And let's see if this thing's hooking up. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're live. We got a new friend in the house. A new friend, Ivan, and he's a friend of Angela Dwells. We're not going to hold that against him, but we're going to allow people time to come on since it's a really late start today. We got 2 shows. I'm going to just put on the intro, a little longer intro than the normal one, and allow people time to come in. If these shows resonate with you, please share. We're getting suppressed, as always, on social media, and we're still working on a long-term solution. And thank you for your continued love and support and contributions to keep us going by the seat of our pants every day. Hello, Angela. What's happening? We'll be right back.
Todd Medina, Soldier One Studios. What's going on here? Democracies, aristocracies, oligarchies, monarchies, hierarchies, presidents and popes. What's the real dope? What's this all about? Faith, hope, doubt? That's all that earth stuff, man. I am a multi-dimensional, high-vibrational, evolutionary being, and I'm tired of hiding it. I am soul. I don't care who or what tried or is trying to deceive us. Call it the devil or another's Messiah, prophet, or God. It's all the same to me. Whoever they are, they can never take our souls, and that's when we came here to learn. From the burn of being wrong, denying who we are, taking orders, lawless laws, a branded existence, but not anymore. I am divinity. Yeah. Alright. The power we hold to mold the future, heavenly nirvana. From the inside, present, eternal. It's time to be a bolder flame. The game isn't the same. We are the spirit science synthesis, the action of conscious thought, alignment, transmuting to a living wisdom. Yeah. No longer dreaming the life, I am living the dream.
All right, so how's it going, everybody? Test, test, test. I got to pull my head out of my ass. This is a powerful, powerful few days. Have you guys seen the Schumann resonance, man? It was doing all some crazy stuff. Then it went black. Then it went parallel lines, which I don't think I've not seen anybody said that they had seen that before. So I don't know what's happening. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got Ivan in the house. He's a friend of Angela Dwells. And yeah, I don't even know what the story's behind it, but we're going to get into it. And I just had a brief conversation, which you know is not my normal thing, but I picked up on it real quick. He's living in the same fantasy land that we all are. He's got spirit guides, a team telling him what they need to do or what he needs to do and what he's going to do. And he's just in total surrender, you know, and I don't know what else to say about it, but it's a pleasure to have you here. This is what it's all about: spontaneous and intuitive and imaginative and creative and, you know, courageous, depending on what we decide to talk about.
Right. You said something pretty much nails how I and Angela met in person. Well, first off, it was through a mutual friend that said, "Hey, you really need to connect with this person, Angela Dwelly." And I don't click with anybody. I'm very much the quiet type. I'm very much an introvert, even though my higher self is like, well, that's going to disappear. I'm like, okay, enough. But that aside, I'm very, like a lot of people, the amount of close friends that I truly have, I can count in these digits. So for me to actually click with someone the way I click with Angela was actually pretty surprising. And just one thing led to another, to where eventually one day we were just BSing. As a matter of fact, I was painting the ceiling. Now, like, you know what? I got a feeling I'm going to be visiting you sometime soon. What you wish for, or careful what you say. Then, like a day or so afterwards, my guides were like, "Hey, you're gonna go on a trip?" I'm like, "I am." He's like, "Well, did you not get a severance point? Do you not have a lot of time?" I'm like, Yeah. So do I buy a round trip ticket? It's like, no. We're going to test him. How good is your scandering and hearing your guides and following your guidance? So that's pretty much what created that whole literally spontaneous trip from one day to the next, to where I was like, hey, what are the airports? Where can I fly to? Because I feel that it's very important for me to be there before the summer solstice eclipse, I believe was the time frame. And that's how it started. Again, I had the idea or intention that, hey, I'm going to visit a friend. I'm going to meet someone that I talk to all the time in person. It's going to be pretty freaking cool. What I was not aware or prepared for is the welcoming committee. Because I know I'm intuitive. I have been going through my waking up process. I've been, for a while, talking to my higher self, my guides, exploring my own multiple aspects of who I am as far as that goes. But I'm just a simple human being. I'm going to go visit a friend. But as I'm driving there, literally, it's beautiful mountainous region in Montana. I'm driving this Toyota Camry. And a lot of times, if my body moves in a certain way, it's obviously telling me something's there. That's how I start tuning in and zoning into what is there that I'm supposed to either see or communicate with. So I'm driving up to your house because I'm using the GPS. I don't know where the fuck I am. And I keep on doing this number. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. What the heck is up there? I feel the energy in this. You know how you have that thinking man where he's like this?
Yeah.
Except it's a giant male energy sitting on top of the ridge of the mountains, staring at me. Because you can pick up when someone's staring at you. And that was the same feeling that I was getting. I'm like, what the? I'm like, okay.
Was it third eye, or could you actually see it too?
I could see.
Yeah.
Both. I could sense it and see it.
Yeah, and feel it. Yeah.
So all of a sudden I get, he's here. And I'm like, who are they talking about? Because I'm oblivious. I'm just a normal, simple human, right? And lo and behold, all of a sudden I hear a female voice on top of the mountain ridge. It's like, where's he at? And the male giant, the way I could perceive him, was like, he's right there in the car. And I'm like, okay. I knew it was important for me to be here. I had no idea what the reason was. All of a sudden, I'm literally connecting with sorts of beings, which that was a trip in itself.
Had that happened to you before? Anything like that?
Not that pronounced or not that intensely. I mean, of course, I talk to spirit all the time. That's now become my norm. I talk to angelic beings. Just not too long ago, discovered that I have a go figure. So I'm starting to stop talking to more galactic beings as well. But it's just been, the weird is now my norm. But it's really hard to describe because, of course, I've always connected with the elementals, with natures, fairies, et cetera, et cetera. And as soon as I meet Angela, it was like an explosion of freaking light codes exchange, activations. And the whole purpose of me being there, I thought I was going to be there 3 days. But her guides and the native indigenous spirits were like, he needs to be here the whole week. I'm like, well, I was not expecting that, but trust and surrender is what I kept on getting. I'm like, all right, well, I'm trusting and surrender, and I guess I'll be here until they say, hey, it's time to go ahead and start looking for a plane ticket to fly out.
So you drove there, or you flew in and got a rent car?
No, I flew in there and got a rent-a-car.
Okay, so you're driving and you're hitting these. How far were you from her place when this started happening?
Actually, I was no BS, about not even 5 minutes away from her house.
Wow.
The way I can describe where she lives, it reminds me very much like the energy of Shasta, how it's very fifth dimensional.
Yeah.
And my own personal description of where she lives, aside that it being a relation and being sacred land and all of that, is I feel there's portals where a lot of galactic beings come to and fro. And I actually was making it funny because I'm like, I bet you this is like a freaking galactic pit stuff. Hey, congratulations. Now we're in freaking 3-dimensional Earth. Anybody need to use the restroom? All right, you guys can go over there. So
So you were there, what, about a week?
yeah, a week.
And then if anybody didn't see the episodes we had with Angela, and then with Angela and her husband, they've got they grow conscious food. They live on some acreage. They're very lit. Their kids are lit. It's a 5D family, basically. So you befriend them and you go over there for a few days, and there had to be some stuff go down. I would imagine there had to be.
Shit, where do we start?
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that you have this very powerful being, which is Angela, very high vibration person,
Yeah.
and I'm not aware where I am in the scale of, okay, you're here, freaking luminosity or expansion and whatever. Until we get together, and we were both like capacitor, where I jolted the shit out of her and she jolted the crap out of me, and it was just like activations out the butt nonstop. The whole time that we were there, they're pretty much they do is chill. Well, they said chill, but they had us that time just to drive around and literally blast the area energetically.
Yeah.
What was it? One of the things that I found very interesting is there was a mountain from her back porch, because there's mountain 1, mountain 2, mountain 3 from her back porch. And I kept on looking at all of them. I'm like, wow, you have a freaking beautiful scenery. The birds, everything is, to me, it's very enchanting and it's very magical, the energy there. Some of the people there that are still asleep don't necessarily feel it. I do. Needless to say, I had one of my dragons escort be the whole time there to make sure I wasn't getting messed with. But there was, because I speak light language and I'm literally like a revolving doors of light languages. Don't ask me how that happened. It just happened.
We have to talk about that. We have to talk about that. We talk about the dragon. We have to talk about a couple other things. I'm curious as to how this all started for you. But so, I mean, like just the high points. Was it just the overall experience? I mean, the whole thing was lit from start to finish.
Yeah.
And or was there 2, 3, 4 things that just kind of stood out and, made you go, oh shit, this is going down?
No, it was lit from the beginning to end. Number one, Angela was teaching me a lot of things because she's very, very freaking sensitive. One thing I have learned, you're going to be around her, watch your thoughts, because she will pick up on that. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Crap.
I know, believe me, I'm married to a shaman.
Right.
I mean, it's like, how do you go into a relationship with a high priestess who's totally intuitive? You can't hide anything. So luckily I paid attention to my intuition from the get-go and pretty much just laid everything out. So
I caught myself kind of doing that, like, don't be a butthead and don't be a smartass, because she will call you out. I mean, not that she's that type of person, but she will point it out. As far as highlights, not from beginning to end, lit as part of my frame.
All right.
There was one mountain that, just like when I was driving, my face just kept on turning to the right, turning to the right, turning to the right. And ironically, it was a mountain that she had taken a picture like a night or two prior, that the mountain seemed a little, like it morphed a little or something like that. Like there was a portal through the moon. Yeah. That was on top of that particular mountain. And I kept on being pulled, like, what the heck is up with that mountain? And I was like, at some point, we have to go. Something keeps on pulling me that we need to go up there. I was like, can we get up there? And she was like, no, there's people that live there in our property, so no, you don't have access. Okay, we were talking about that, and we had a conversation. Again, just like when you feel someone staring at you, I look out in the distance. What the heck do I see? I see a centaur, a male centaur, just staring at me. So I was like, okay, am I seeing things or am I really seeing things? So I'm like, hey, can you feel over there in that region? Do you feel someone over there looking at us? So she validated that for me, and she was like, yeah. I'm like, what the? So being the courteous person that I am, I'm like, morning. And he literally got the, what? You can see me?
Really?
Yeah. And I was like,
yeah. How big was he?
Okay, I'm 6'1".
Yeah.
Stature-wise, oh damn, I'd say about, how tall is that? Damn near between 9 and 10 feet tall. Because if you imagine a horse's body and then you put a torso of human, of that,
Yeah. So how far away was it?
he was probably about, I want to say maybe 100, 150, maybe 200 yards away.
Wow. Like a big moose, the size of a big moose or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me to be able to pick him up, like I'm seeing like Angela per se sitting next to me, where we're just chatting away. What was funny about that situation? Eventually, we continued talking like there was nothing, like no big deal.
Yeah. It's just a day in the life now, man.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a day in the life.
I feel this being go off, and then eventually I'm like, what the? Because I'm picking up on something. I'm like, hey, because I'm hearing what I'm sensing is like giggling of two little girls. And then all of a sudden I look again and I see two little young centaur girls, like if you could say like a 4 or 5 year old child.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, again, can you feel, what do you feel over there? And she was like, I feel like little girl energy. I'm like, okay, so
Wow.
you're validating what I'm validating. And eventually those two little centaurs go off, and I guess they tell their mother. And because I could feel them, another presence coming forward, and I could feel those two presences a little like behind the trees, like a mother that's protecting their children. It's like, hey, I want to look out there and make sure everything's safe.
Yeah.
And eventually, once I saw the female centaur, I was like, good morning, ma'am. How are you? So again, she also got the, seriously, you can see me? I'm like, but of course. So as that day went on, eventually I got our guides were like, hey, it's time for us to go explore that mountain. And as we got in the truck and went driving off, we get this young stud, no pun intended, centaur boy, like our equivalent to like a 19, 20-year-old young kid, athletic built kid, like a football player kid. And she starts tracking. Well, we're going to use our intuitive GPS to find a way to get as close as we can.
Now they were on the mountain that was privately owned that you guys were feeling. They were on
right.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, there is a community of centaurs that live over there on that property, on that same mountain. Because whenever this young man was guiding us as we were driving the truck, and because me being me, I'm seeing this young centaur boy that's doing, come on, follow me. And I'm like, hey, follow him. And she's like, follow who? I'm like, okay, my bad. Just go straight. Once you hit the road, make a right, because he's saying to follow him. So the whole time I'm seeing this young man assisting us. Eventually, we get to the mountain, and for whatever reason, I feel like I need to speak light language. So I started speaking light language, sitting this way, turning to the right. My guys were like, no, get out. Face it full on and speak light language. So I did. And then they were like, good job. Now take your coat off, because now you're going to channel and speak light language. So in that instance, whenever I started doing the whole signing and speaking light language, facing full front, because I needed to feel not only the ground, the wind, all the elements around my body as I'm speaking, I ended up activating what we both agreed is a pyramid overgrown with nothing but trees and vegetation all over the place. So, because I was getting the visual of literally like a pyramid top doing this number, cracking open, and just like a water fountain shooting water up, except this liquid was literally liquid gold going in all directions, activating every adjacent mountain on every side. And Angela was telling me that whenever I did that, she could hear like we'll unlock something or like latches or straps on. So it was just like snap, snap, strap, 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 snap. That's what she perceived. And I was just telling her pretty much my visualization of what I was getting. I'm like, dude, that was freaking cool as hell, because I've never done that.
I think that's what they call grid work. Unlocking the grid or throwing down grid. I don't, and a lot of people talk about grid work, and I think it's a lot like when people say you need to ground. How do you ground? And there's all these different ways to ground.
Right.
And I think grid work, a lot of times, I know it's happened to Morgan and I a lot, but we haven't been told, go to this place and do this. We
Right.
just, like you guys are describing, we're just driving down the road, and then all of a sudden, the phones will shut off, and we'll hear weird noises, and we'll both be taking in stuff. And I think it's just a matter of the soul coordinates
Mhm.
being there together, in that geographical location. And and the other thing too, I'd say about it is, and I'm going to ask you about it. A lot of times we think we're doing, and we are doing something for the Mother Earth, but it works both ways.
Right.
You're getting something as well,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the days after that, aside from once it was all done, literally, if you could have an audible sound, I could hear a crap ton of celebration going off. Like they did it, blah, blah. Eventually,
Yeah.
this stud that guided us there literally came to the edge of the road, and I'm in the truck, and her truck is pretty high. And I'm literally looking up at him, and I'm like, God dang, you're tall. And and I was like, well, you're a good-looking stud. I did not know they could blush. And, of course, he was like, well, thank you, sir, but we really appreciate what you guys did here.
Wow.
And
Now, is this on the mountain you weren't supposed to go up, or was it at the base of it, or what?
we were at base at the road, because the mountain, say for instance, the mountain was here, but the road was right down here. So we were down here facing that way.
Yeah.
And we felt drawn to go there. We didn't know why, but just like I have learned that a lot of times I never know what the heck I'm doing until I'm actually at a certain location.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But the bigger thing after that, because that was kind of like what I thought was like step one, step two, because Angela being a fractal of Archangel Michael, and Glacier Park being connected with the Michael energy as well, I got this knowing that we need to go there, that we need to do some sort of ceremony or ritual, if you will.
Yeah.
And ironically, they were literally telling us to eat the day prior to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a sweat lodge, like getting prepared to go on a sweat lodge. Wow.
Yeah. But in that instance, what was interesting is like our shadow sides, our night sides were really messing with both Angela and I, because they were like, we're going to try to deter him from doing this because it was pretty freaking important.
Right.
Either way, I was like, are you fucked with? Because this morning, like my freaking other night side self, our shadow selves, was really running amok and like trying to pick fights with her husband and with her, and like drumming up like nasty thoughts and nasty names. I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? But we ignored that. We went to Glacier Park, and what's funny is I am very connected with the stones. And I know one of my other aspects, I am a stone king. Not a stone king, but a stone king.
Stone. Oh, I thought I was going to say we're the same. I'm a stoner king. No, I'm kidding. I used to be.
No, but I know, because I have fun with that shit. I'm like, hey, what are you trying to say? But no, the whole time I'm there, I'm talking to all the stones, and they're pretty much telling me, stand over here. We need you to sit on the stone. We need you to go over there. And obviously, I was getting activated out of the yin yang.
Yeah.
But once we went to Glacier Park, it was a little chilly. It was drizzling a little bit.
Yeah.
And they were like, step here, stand here. We took 4 Lemurian sea crystal quartz, and they said, put him at the position of north, south, east, and west. And typically you would think, okay, at one location, this is true north, south, east, west, right? No, they were just like, one goes there, one goes there, one goes there. We didn't know the freaking orientation. But at a certain point, there were a lot of people walking through. So I was like, how the heck are we going to do this? And me going to freaking speaking light language and transcend out when there's a lot of people traffic.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, all of a sudden there was no people traffic.
Yeah.
And they stand on that stone and literally
either that or they couldn't see you and you couldn't see them anymore because y'all were in different dimensions.
That too. But I literally felt like all of our galactic families, angelic families, everyone there. And I went into a freaking channel. I put my hoodie up. I literally looked like freaking with a freaking drain dripping off my hood. And I was emanating pink energetic light out of my left hand. And purple transmutation light out of my right hand. And Angela's guys pretty much told her what he's doing, do exactly the same thing. And I just went into full freaking letting loose and allowing whatever needed to come out to come out. And the moment I started speaking light language, the skies opened up. And
you can't make this shift up, man.
No, you can't. You can't. And
you
ironically,
make this. You can't make it up. It's, it's we think that we have to hear words or see something with our, something that we pick up with our physical senses, right? And it's always like, I don't know. I don't know. Natural nature. That's the birds, the wind, the clouds opening up. I mean, that stuff, when it happens, it's so easy to go, oh, that's just a coincidence. But I think it's just too rampant now. It's happening to too many people.
Right. And the fact that every single time that, even if you're not a believer or you're skeptical, if it happens repetitively so many times after a while, you're like, hey, wait a second, what is going on around here? The funny thing about that whole thing, once I felt that, okay, I'm king, because I felt, of course, Yeshua, Mother Mary, freaking all the angelics, even versions of myself that I have yet to connect or acknowledge or whatever you want to call it, were there. Once I was done, Angela was like, well, one of the seed crystal quartz goes here in front where you were facing. The other one goes exactly behind. And since I connected anything with the color blue with Mikael, there happened to be a spigot painted blue. And it said, let it flow. I'm like, are you fucking shitting me? Seriously?
Let it what? Flow?
Let it flow?
Yeah. No, you can't make this up, man. I mean, like, individually, they're all coincidences, but when you line them all up together, you can't deny it. Okay, so she's saying, ask him about our food that we grew and how it affected him. And secondly, she says, ask him about Merlin. So those are the next two.
Because apparently I'm a detective soul, which I discovered through another friend of mine. I kept on pinpointing like different aspects of her, which I was introducing her to her Lyran self, her fairy self, her mermaid self. Angela. Right. And I kept on looking at Johnny, because Johnny, his vibe is, he can be addicting, just because he's just one of those dudes that you can't get enough of. He's just one of those.
He's smooth. He's smooth.
Like nothing ever rocks his boat. Yeah. You can be in the middle of a hurricane and he's just like, dude, everything's fine. I'm like,
he's almost like too smooth. You know what I mean? He's smooth. Very smooth.
When it came to the food, I didn't notice it immediately till a couple of days later, and then all of a sudden I'm like, dude, I've never been high, but I'm starting to realize what high is.
Really?
Yeah, because their food. And it was funny because whenever we went out to her little nursery, like her guys would be like, hey, they're telling me for you to eat this leaf. I'm like, okay, I'll eat it. But it's so freaking ridiculous. I actually felt the difference from being there, eating that, and then coming home and eating the grocery store stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
shit, there is a difference.
There is a difference. I never, and I even lived on an organic farm in Hawaii. We lived there for a few months. As we were talking about earlier, we thought we were going to be there, and then we get the call to leave again. But and when we came here last August, we went to a 5-acre farm where they had a big vegetable patch. And I'm eating corn off the shuck. I never even knew that was possible. I thought you had to cook it. But the food, the energy of the food was different. It was very, very different. Even different than if I go to the store and I buy organic. I can, like, tomatoes and oranges, and I'm not a big food expert or anything, but I can't even eat them. I noticed this before but even with organic food, it's not like what was coming out of the ground, like what I've eaten coming out of the ground. Even at a friend's house in Portland, we stopped. She gave me some jalapenos and tomatoes, and like, you can tell, man, it lights you up. So you felt like you were getting high when you ate it?
Well, a mixture of that and a mixture of, because of that food, I had so many activations so readily accessible.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that was helping me connect a lot more with all the beings around there. Because at some point I could hear the elementals calling me to go walk outside.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I could speak all the light languages that I have to come forth. And I was like, oh, crap. I actually have to think about this. So I started going off of the one that started coming forward and then going through the whole what I have. And after that, it was interesting because they were like, okay, start with a wolf light language. And I was
the wolf light language.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before. And I just want to say too that, you know, I'm more sensitive to elemental nature beings, nature, the wind, you know, clouds, sun, you know, and inner earth. And as I'm listening to you, it sounds like it's just a huge, you know, like a huge conglomeration of elementals over there.
Oh yeah,
including the plants and the food. Yeah,
absolutely. So what I thought was pretty interesting. One of her neighbors has a wolf dog, who happens to be, I can't remember which indigenous person that reincarnated as that being. But anyways, that aside.
That's just a sidebar issue. This sidebar, no, this just happens to be Crazy Horse or something like that. Right?
So it was interesting for this simple reason. When I was speaking that light language, I felt like I was giving orders, like to etheric wolves. And whenever I was speaking, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So whenever I was speaking this, all the dogs started barking and getting loud, including her little dog. And once I was done speaking that, I could literally feel all these etheric wolves like going all over the place, doing all sorts of activation, whatever they were meant to do. I was there to give them pretty much the guidance of, now it's time, do it.
So it was an activation. It's like a call to arms. A soul's call to arms come down, right?
Right.
So Denise is thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Now, can you pull up whatever light language you want whenever you want to?
Absolutely.
So she'd like to hear. Now, Denise speaks incredible light language. She was on, I think, yesterday or the day before. And she's one of those people. I've only heard a few people do it, you know. And even when I got off the show, Morgan's like, "Did you hear that?" She has this thing about where she can have like two coming out at once, right?
Right.
But anyway, she's an accomplished, well-versed, well-experienced light language carrier. So she's asking, can you do the wolf? Would you have a problem with that?
No, I don't have a problem. As a matter of fact, I enjoy it just because this is how I have connected to all the wolf beings and two of my badass wolf guides. I gotta watch out because that always makes like the hairs on my body.
Holy shiitake mushrooms, man! This is really getting deep. There's so many things happening. I don't know how everybody else feels. Now, I just want to point out a couple of things real quick, and I'll tie it up and get it back to you. But Angela, I said, I made the joke that, and it really wasn't a joke. That was Crazy Horse. Was that wolf dog?
Yeah,
and she said it was Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to say, like talking to you, especially over the last few days, and I can't remember, because how do you remember anything past a few days? I'm noticing that there's a convergence. So the synchronicities, or what we call the coincidences, like you were talking about, they're like getting almost like a checker game, like it's just like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm listening to you. I'm there. I'm also other places, but I'm there with you guys. I'm with you on the mountain. I see the centaurs, and all this other stuff is falling into place too. Like everything's just kind of aligning,
right?
And I'm feeling that, and I just got to say that. I don't know how other people are doing, but given all this energy and stuff that you were talking about, and other people make comments about, I think one of the things that's coming with it is this accelerated more clear synchronicities. Like there's a bunch of synchronicities, a bunch of coincidences, but there's really just one, right? You know what I mean? It's like there's one big, wink of the eye from the universe that, hey, you're on track now.
Right.
It's really weird.
Well, it was kind of cool just because after I finished doing all that, Elsie's a little puppy. I call her a little puppy dog, a small little. I think she's a Shih Tzu. But she's creating all this. I'm speaking this. Then once I'm done, Angela lets her out, and I could literally hear her little dog is like, "Yeah, what he said." I'm like,
"Yeah, what he said."
Napoleon.
This is so cool. And then the other thing that's so cool about this, of course, is y'all's connection. And then, because I've experienced this with Morgan, which is, it's one thing to have this stuff go on when you're alone,
right?
Even with apparitions and even with stuff that you can't deny, but still nobody else saw it. But when you're with somebody and they're getting the same thing you're getting,
right?
You know what I mean? Feeling, seeing, and all that stuff. That's like, when's it gonna be 3 people or 4 people or 5 people?
Honestly, I feel that the more people continue working on themselves to clear a lot of the garbage that we are all working through our own bullshit, whether it's from this lifetime or in past lifetimes, the more people are going to start becoming much more online to were what you're seeing, I'm seeing, and you can freaking deny that. This is the reason why I really enjoyed that trip with Angela, because we were validating the bejesus out of each other. And to the point about Merlin was I kept on looking at her husband, because her husband's got this magical wily hair about him. And he was making a comment about him cutting his hair. I'm like, don't do it. That's like Samson. You cut his hair off, he loses his abilities, his strength. And I kept staring at him because I was like, there's something Merlin-esque about you.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, you were Merlin's prodigy. I don't know how the hell I came across that piece of information. I'm like, he was, and what I was picking up was that he, in another lifetime, if you will, him and Merlin were like right there, toe to toe, as far as abilities and so on and so forth, where I feel that Merlin might have been a little bit much more public, where this prodigy of Merlin was much more private. And like myself, I like to be in the background. I don't necessarily like to be.
Not for long, pal. I think you're being pushed out, like a lot of these people are being pushed out,
My guys have been telling me that too. I'm like, are you serious? They're like, yeah, you're going to be just like Angela. People are going to know you. I'm like, shit. They're like, because you don't want it. That's why it's happening. I'm like, so how do?
Well, I think that's part of it too, though. Like you were saying, I think it's become really apparent. Certainly, even with our shadows and even with the stuff playing out, people projecting and this and that in the community. I'm talking about in these types of communities. It's pretty, it's pretty cut and dry now. It ain't them, it's me. It's all about me. And the other thing too, it's not so much like shadow work, anymore. It's not like darkness, it's more like, just zero pointing, just finding the middle ground without a charge. So these things that you're describing that you were talking about, yes, these are like the doors to having these shared experiences and other higher dimensional type of experiences and such. That's a big deal. And I think it's happening more and more and more. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why, like I said, I love connecting with people that are like-minded. Even it doesn't matter if they're just waking up. If I can share something that I have gone through and use myself as an example to help someone else, by all means, that's what I'm going to do. And it goes without saying, I have been discovering a lot of abilities that I do have, not only just speaking to spirits, but also learning that I'm a very powerful healer myself energetically, because I've had the privilege of helping a couple of people go through that whole miracle process, which to me, it when people are like, thank you so much, it's so easy. And it's not a big thing for me that that doesn't make my head blow up and be very egoic about it. I'm just like, hey, Yeah,
They won't let that. They'll give you some rope enough to hang yourself if you need to.
right,
But
right.
I think that's another part of it too.
Hmm.
Is working on ourselves, right?
Right,
We're having to use these human descriptions, but zero pointing, whatever you want to call it, what we used to call shadow work, or
right.
and just totally like not want to go there. You know what I mean? We're not given a choice, and I think it's
Hmm.
the same energetic pattern that we're being asked to step up, to
Yeah,
step out. And it's no different than zero pointing, because in fact it is a way of zero pointing.
right,
And I think the other thing is because, like, for you, you're coming into the awareness of certain skills and abilities,
right.
you know, and the only way we're going to discover our oneness is to do those first two things that I just stated. But the
Hmm.
third thing is to share these skills and abilities, because in fact everybody has the same skills and abilities,
Right.
but we have to see it to believe it. So if you're, walking on water and your ankles aren't getting wet, somebody's going to be behind you,
Right.
and vice versa. There's some things that I might be more aware of and more cultivated within my field than you, and vice versa. But I think
Right.
this is one of the ways that we get to oneness, is when we start to realize that everybody's got the same, you know what I mean? Everybody's got the same stick. Everybody's got the same spiritual soul stick.
Yeah.
So,
No, and dude, honestly, that's one thing that I like to reiterate a lot, because a lot of people are like, especially, and not knocking any religious whatever, because I grew up Catholic, and
yeah.
hence the reason why I've always felt the connection with angelics. But now I've discovered, hey, you happen to be a fractal of an angelic being.
Yeah.
But that aside, that's one thing that I keep reiterating, that the abilities that I have, you all have it too. Because I've had a
Abs-
couple friends say, "Hey, why don't you connect to your angels?" I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, time out, time out. They're not my angels, our angels.
Yeah.
We're all family.
Yeah.
There's no one better than the other. We're all equals." And that's, some people might be like, "Well, I'm a fractal of this, therefore I'm up here and da 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 da." I'm like,
Why
"Excuse me."
would you want to limit? Why would you want to limit yourself? Right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly my point. That's why I'm just like, no, we're nothing and we're everything at the same time. But we're just here having fun playing this game. In the meantime, some of it 3D, some of it 5D, some of it whatever you wish to call it. To be honest, depending on which beings you're interacting with, I guess. But no, this is to me, this is a lot of fun.
Right
Just
on.
everybody and helping people. Really, that's my thing. And eventually, I got a very strong feeling I'm going to end up in Montana sooner than later. It's just pointing
Dude,
that.
you're just like, Montana has always been a huge thing for me since I was a kid. I told Angela my favorite movie is River Runs Through It, but and then I remember I was up in, because I have a couple of lives I recalled early on that were Lakota.
Right.
And I read a lot about it when I was a kid, but I don't recall everything that I read. But because when I thought of Lakota, I thought of South Dakota, North Dakota,
Hmm.
but I didn't realize that they go all the way over to Idaho, Montana. In fact, I
Right.
think Little Bighorn's in Montana, if I'm not mistaken. But I might be. But anyway, so there's like a big pull to go over there. There always has been a big pull, and I can feel you on that.
Yeah, I just find it interesting, the fact that when I first got there, number one, all of a sudden I'm seeing indigenous people walking by, and I'm like, "Do you get this much traffic? What's going on here?"
That was a different dimension. I hope you didn't say that to any of the white people around there. They'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
Shit. No, it was fun. It was kind of interesting because at some point we were feeling a little dizzy, so she was like, "Let's go stand on earth and ground." And we were BS.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I see this cowboy literally doing this
Yeah.
number and tips his hat to me, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Ma'am," and walks up. I'm like,
Dude, it's happening, man. The dimensions are bleeding over.
"Yeah,
They really are bleeding over, man. Absolutely.
No,
Uh, yeah, very cool. Oh, so two people. We're going to take a quick commercial break. I'm just kidding. We got these shirts in today, and our friend Marilyn, Marilyn Bigger. She's a good friend of mine. You can tell because I messed up her name. She's been working on getting some merchandise. You know, after 9 years, we probably ought to get some merchandise. We've had enough people ask. So we're working on that, and we're gonna roll that out soon with our temporary website, and yeah, so we'll have something to share and to offer in exchange for support. So I just wanted to put that in there and thank Marilyn for that.
absolutely.
So now I got to ask you. Now, can you go a little bit longer than an hour? Can you?
I can go as long as you want, really.
I got another show in an hour and 10 minutes, and I need a little bit of time to prepare for that. But so, how did this start for you? I mean, I grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
You know, my last name ends in a vowel, yours doesn't, but we're both Latinos, and I'm just saying, I can feel some of the similarities.
Right.
I think you had it when you were a kid. You probably went into sleep like everybody else did when they entered the Matrix and like the hamster on the wheel.
Right.
But was there something that like reawoke you that just like kicked you in the ass and made you get up and starting to get jiggy with it?
Well, I know, of course, being Mexican or growing up in a Catholic type of religion, there were certain things that I always resonated with. Other things I was just kind of like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But what started my whole awakening process, I've been a fan of the paranormal stuff. Here's the negative. I'm like, so what about the light side? What about angelic? Or what about all these divine beings? Where's all the info on that? And that started about 2012, go figure. So as I started discovering that my internal dialogue is with my higher self, Archangel Chaniel, I was stuff in the beginning. I didn't even know who my higher self was. I was like, hey, it's just higher self. But as I was starting to become much more intuitive and opening those doors up that I had shut at the age of, I'm guessing they're telling me about 4. Because of the way I was brought up and chaotic.
Yeah, well, it wasn't supported, man. It wasn't supported.
Right. It was pretty much like, you're an idiot. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're full of crap and whatever. But anyways, no, it was started slowly that way. I kept on being pulled towards the angelic realm, always, because I always believed I have, and I know I have, a guardian angel, who happens to be Archangel Aria. Go figure. But it just started slowly but surely. But once I started getting some traction, I was like, okay, higher self, if I'm going to start going through my awakening process, let's make sure it's not with like one big jolt and being like, what the and just freak the hell out. But make it as easy and as organic as possible to where I won't get spooked, right? If you were to tell me in 2013, 2014, hey, you're going to be speaking with spirits, and hey, you're going to be assisting in moving.
Speaking light language. Speaking light language.
I didn't even know what light language was till like about a little over a year ago. And I just happened to do a workshop after I went to a Tampa event where this young man his name is Nilesh, a fractal of Archangel Metatron, that opened that door, which opened a door to a workshop in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with our dear friend of mine, Wendy Wolf, who assisted in activating me. And then like no BS, within a week, light language started coming forward. Right. This is my native light language. And then after that, it was just like one thing after another. Some more languages started coming forth. A couple months later, I started connecting with Lyrans. And when I connected with them, it was like instantly freaking, here's some Lyran light language coming forward. And I'm like, okay. Because every single time something came forward, it wasn't forced. I just felt that it something to be spoke. And I spoke it, and whatever came out. And afterwards, I was like, what the hell was that just came out?
What happened the first time it happened? Was anybody with you? Or were you by yourself?
Actually, I was by myself. I was in the middle of meditation. I didn't know it was light language, by the way.
What did you think? Did you think you were losing your mind?
Yeah, part of me, yeah, to be honest.
right? It was just like, what?
No, because I
It's
was.
crazy. I gotta tell you a couple things.
Go
I
ahead.
wasn't gonna say anything, but Candace Coe, my friend from Vancouver, she said Ariel has been coming up huge lately. So when I got reawoken 9 years ago, I had this team, of like 6 ascendeds and 2 other essences and 3 spirit guides, and but the Archangel Michael was there. He was actually the one that woke me up, and but anyway, so one time I'm shown. Now, the universe speaks to everybody in their own unique way, right? I mean,
Right.
because we're speaking to ourselves. I don't know. I don't want to get into the semantics and the complications of it. But my point is they showed me, and I saw it. I saw these 24 guardian angels, and they were telling me, like, you're a hard case. We needed to assign more to you, but the one that was the head. Guardian Angel's name was Ariel, right?
Really? Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And yeah, and so that's another thing you said that just kind of like, okay, I get this, dude. There's, it's so much of this stuff that's happening now is not with explanation.
Right.
You can try to explain it, or you can just, my wife has a great saying: if you know it, why you got to say it, which can be, construed a lot of different ways, but.
Right.
But I'm almost at that point now where I'm just like, okay, I got that one, because the synchronicities aren't just 1111 anymore.
Right.
They're a conversation where a guy has 5, 6 things that are like, or you're I know, like when my wife is in oracle mode,
Right.
I can see what she's saying. Like I actually watch it like a movie, and
Thank
it's
you.
actually occurring as she's speaking it. It's not like she says something and then I see it. It's like I'm seeing it as it's being said, so there's something in that. I'm having the same thing with you,
No, it's the same thing because, example, I can send a light language message to 3 to 4 people, and they will get whatever they're meant to get, whether it's a vision or imagery. Whenever people ask me, so what did you say? I'm like, I don't know, but I know what I felt, because it's something that you're supposed to feel through it. And as you feel through it, then whatever is meant to become to you, that's what you get. I can translate it like, good evening. It's such a pleasure to be with you guys here. I can do that, but if I'm just going in full channel or whatever, if one of my guides, or if I pull my shamanic self, which is my native tongue, and I just start channeling, a lot of the times I get the imagery, but like you said, that you're seeing it and you're interpreting it, and you know what is being said without words, just because you are interpreting it via your visualization or whatever way that you get that information. So
this is so important. I mean, it's so important. It really is. It's something, I don't talk about it a lot, but I mean, 2,200, I think we're almost to 2,200 episodes of this show. Mm-hmm. And so I've talked about how, I'm looking at somebody and they're morphing, or I see their team above their head, or the higher selves are talking, or I'm listening to the higher self while the human's talking. I'm trying to, stay in tune. And it always seems to work, but there's also activations and downloads and code exchange.
Yeah.
And that's been accelerating dramatically. We've had a lot of well-known people on this show, and we've pulled thousands and thousands, 50,000 views on the show, but it's the 99.99%, it's the people like yourself that are been in the background that are stepping up, like Angela, like so many people. And recently it's really picked up, and this code exchange has really picked up, and the activation has really picked up. So I'm sitting here talking to you as it's been occurring more and more and getting lit up, and again, here we go. I could stop and I'm only saying this because I want people to be aware that I think this is something that's happening collectively. and what we're talking about, the whole thing about, not explaining things and just knowing things. But yeah, it's moving so fast. And how do we expand the awareness of this natural level of communication? Is it just your guides tell you go to Montana and you jump in the plane and you go one-way ticket? Is it Todd Morgan get a place after 3.5 years and then we're told you're going to be traveling? Is it just following that guidance and letting go? I don't know.
Honestly, you hit the nail on the head. It is that from an egoic way of thinking, from our analytical mind, it is so challenging to let go of the reins and literally just spontaneous. And if you got them, you have the availability, and you have this from out of the blue crazy idea that pops in your head and says, "Hey, you should go to Sedona, Ivan." Fuck it, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah.
The other person, the older version of me, would have been like, "Why go to Sedona? I have nothing there. Yeah. Why would I spend the money on there? I'm going to spend X amount of money where I can save that." Blah blah. The analytical egoic versus following your soul, following your.
I don't think we're going to be given a choice. I think it's going to be by force or by flow. I've got a dear friend that lives in the Northeast, and he's probably 10 years older than me. 8-10 years older than me. I'm 58, and he may not be that old. Don't get mad if you heard this, by the way. But he was one of those, which is kind of unique because he's a man. Most of the ones I've run into have been women. The vast majority of them have been women. But so he had a lot of dimensional experiences, connections, memories, all kinds of stuff. I mean, real thick. Documented it. Wasn't real public, but documented everything, and he puts the stuff out. And I keep telling him, man, every time he sends me a note, I'll say, "Go west, young man, go west." Like, I can see his guides. I can see our connection. I can see that get up and go. But, imagine being 65 or 70 or whatever the case is, and you've got your house and you've got your car and you got your bills and you've been there for 20 years. I think people are being pushed, every one of us, not just some of us, but every one of us. And I don't think it's going to get any, I think it's actually going to increase.
It is. I have to share this because people that are not listening to their guides, people that are not listening to God, people that are not listening to their higher self, whatever vernacular you wish to use, all of a sudden they're going to start realizing that what's happening in their life, it starts failing. All of a sudden they start stumbling into block for what used to be something that was very habitual, that a system that was structured to where, hey, I'm going to live comfortably for the rest of my life here, and because I'm already set up, bills paid, blah blah, so on and so forth. I got a system down packed. Well, that's the old paradigm. That's your egoic freaking I'm in charge. Well, now we're shifting into much more of this, to where it doesn't matter what this does. If this says you go and you keep on ignoring it, and all of a sudden shit's going to start falling apart around you, and you're going to be like, eventually you're going to have to acknowledge and move. Yeah,
kind of like you, though, too, like me. So and the beauty of it is it's always paradoxical.
It is.
Because you end up, no job,
right.
No, this is taken, that's taken, this is taken, until you get to the point where it's kind of like the cosmic laugh, and you're just like, okay, I get it. Well, like they told you, you don't have a job right now. You can just get up and go to Montana. Don't even discuss it with us. You know what I mean? Right. But I think this is what's happening. And so I'm a freak about what I do, right? Like, in my head, like, I don't even talk to Morgan a lot about it. I'll just be like, okay, what next? What's working? Read the field, da-da-da-da. And how do we get this to the mainstream? Or is that just my egoic part of me wanting to see the physical evidence? Are we actually doing it? There's a big part of me that thinks we are, that we're, even if it was just me and you talking,
right.
know? But we light each other up, and maybe this is part of the new way, the new lifestyle too. The new reality is to step away from how many views, how many likes, how much money do I have in the bank, or who likes me, or all that stuff, and just put your stuff out there. And I think that's what I keep getting. I keep getting, as I'm talking to people, they're like a lot of women that I've talked to in the last, say, 3 or 4 months, they'll be like, "Well, I knew you were going to ask me. I don't want to go on, but I've been told that I have to." So it's like, hey, you know what? Join the party, right?
Well,
Buy the ticket. Just stamp the ticket.
they wanted to tell that. Okay, are you guys talking or am I talking? Okay, I'm talking. They wanted me to tell you about the whole how can I get mainstream? First off, because people are waking up, because people are following this.
Yeah.
Well, people are starting to turn away from mainstream.
Yeah.
If you know, a lot of people are literally going. They're not going to the people, the famous people. Maybe some of them are, but a lot of people, because they're waking up, that's not attractive anymore. That's not real.
Yeah.
Them seeing one of your videos, that's, pardon my French, that's fucking real. Hey, he's going through the same thing that I'm going through. Hey, Ivan just had this experience. Okay, fine. I'm calm down. They're like,
yeah, it's okay. Man, we're Latinos, man. We're hot blooded. I used to get accused of raising my voice all the time.
but
no, and I'd be like, I'm not raising my voice. It's just the way I talk.
No, they're pretty good about if I'm starting to run away, they're like, breathe, relax. I'm like, okay, fine, sir. Fine. Oh, ma'am, in this instance. But no, it's just that the more you put content out there, the more you continue doing this, which, believe it or not, I used to listen to a lot of music on road trips. A lot of the times I end up tuning into your shows.
Wow.
That helps me transition that 6-hour drive from here to my parents' house or wherever I go. Because a lot of times, by synchronicity, there's even some of the older videos that, hey, you watch this. There's something relevant that you need to hear about this. So more and more people are pulling away from what's mainstream program and coming more into the real type of stuff, which is this type of dialogue.
I noticed that. That's interesting you bring that up, because I do pay attention, and you can call it, 3D or whatever, but I as a study, like if I'm doing something, I'm going to study it. So I study other people's YouTube channels and their websites and other broadcasts and their formats, and of course, obviously, the people I'm familiar with, for the most part, are going to be people that you'd be familiar with. People that have got big communities or big followings. And what I've noticed over the last 3 or 4 months is, if it's not expanding, it's starting to fall flat.
Yeah,
and I think that's a kind of 2 reasons. One reason, because everybody's expanding, but one is self-empowerment. So much of the old paradigm, even if it wasn't in the lightworker community, was about a codependent exchange of frequencies. So I'm going to do this, I expect that. I'm going to do this, you're going to pay me that. Or, you know what I mean? And I watched this for 2, 3, 4 years. I watched this with the whole, energy exchange. People call it energy exchange, in terms of like practitioners and that type of thing.
right.
Some people didn't charge anything. Some people charge a lot, and all this different stuff floating around. And I know it's all going to go to one place, like everything else. One size is going to fit all at some point, but it's interesting what you're saying, because I'm watching, as we have all been conditioned to seek that life raft, to seek that herd mentality, right? It's starting to drop away. And it looks like a trend to me. It looks like that's the trajectory we're headed on, which to me would be self-reliance and sovereignty.
Right. What I've been observing a lot, like you as well, is people. The one thing that this pandemic taught a lot of people is cut the bullshit.
Yeah.
If you're I'm noticing that people are starting to gravitate to real people, not this Hollywood, whatever the heck, trying to sell you, whatever that freaking BS idea is. People that are actually teaching you matter.
Yeah.
This matters. Take care of this.
Yeah.
You're that effing important.
Yeah.
And that's been my realization with just, like I said, following many people like you who that put content out there. With some people, I'm kind of like, okay, I kind of resonate. With other people, I can. It's interesting because now I can see through the BS. Doesn't matter if you want to put any spin on spiritual verbiage or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Eventually, once I get my stuff together, because my guys are pushing me to create a website to use my mediumship abilities to assist people, which I already do for free. If I stumble across someone and it happens that way, I do it without charging, just because if I have the ability, why the fuck?
Yeah.
That's my mentality. But
it's free energy, man. The soul is the free energy of the universe. It's all free, you know that. And I don't have any issue with anybody else at all. But I've been told since day one with Soulogy.
You're right.
You know, it's if you got to walk the talk, and this is only my trip. My trip is, they said, you just got to walk the talk. You put the energy out and release it and let it go, and have faith that it will be reciprocated. And I think the first thing we have to learn, or that I had to learn, was it doesn't come back in traditional terms.
Right.
Somebody sends you a crystal. I remember those days. They'd send me crystals, or they'd send me these different, different amulets and stuff. And then it's, do you need a place to stay for a week? Or do you need a bus ticket? There's so many ways that abundance comes in that's not even physical.
Right.
Right. I've got a lady that I believe she's on here right now. I don't want to embarrass her, but she sends a contribution a couple times a week. Like $11, $11.11. Right. And this whole thing is run on $11.11 contributions. It's like Ron Paul's presidential run. Where everybody was, nominal contributions. But she will write a note once or twice a week. It's probably a couple of paragraphs long. That means so much to me. It is abundance. It is validation and synchronicity. Because even though we're all sitting here and we're spinning through this thing in 2020, and I know you know what I mean, at the same time, we're getting our ass handed to us on a platter on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
We're eating humble pie. And when you're in that state of fluctuation and somebody steps in and supports you energetically, because that can look a lot of different ways, it's incredible. It's priceless.
Yeah, it is. And of course, the monetary for now, that's what we got to play with. That's the game we're playing with. Yeah. But, and to your point, a lot of times, even someone just sending you a certain message, if you're, say, for instance, this powerful light worker and you're all this blah, blah, and you have this strong following and you're the go-to person, right? A lot of people don't realize that we're still human beings. We do have some options.
Yeah.
And sometimes, just even though it might have been like, hey, I'm donating $1, but I sent just the right message.
Yeah.
That literally yanks you by the shoulders out of the muck.
Yeah.
Where you're supposed to be at.
That's right.
Put a price on that.
That's right, man. I can tell you over 9 years, especially the early years, because they were an MFER. Seriously. No, seriously. I would be like, say, F it, I'm done. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go get a job. You guys can, I'm down here doing the work. You guys are up there talking to me and you're invisible most of the time. Hell no. I'm the one down here dealing with this bullshit, and I'm like, but then somebody would write something or send something. I have this other lady, she's probably sent more individual contributions over the years than anyone else. And they're $4.44 and $5.55 and $7.77, $7.77. They're all less. I think that would be the biggest one. And she never said a word. But after the volume of them, because obviously she didn't have, and I knew that she didn't have the means. And sure enough, about 6 weeks ago, she set an appointment with Morgan.
Uh-huh.
And Morgan was telling me about this lady. She's like, this lady wrote me, and, Morgan's is very nominal. You know, it's a very nominal exchange, too nominal in my opinion, because of course I'm biased. But so the lady says, I can't afford that. I want to pay you. Can I pay you a little bit at a time and you know, like layaway?
Right.
And Morgan said, no, you just, this $20 or whatever it was, you just, hey, let's do it.
Right.
So I set up her Zoom and I saw the name. I'm like, wait, that's the lady, right? So I got to meet her and that was her thing. She's on a very, very limited income. But if you think about it, proportionate to what somebody has,
Right.
that's where the meat is. I had a family member when I was on the streets, ran into me on the streets, man. I was walking down the streets about noon one day in downtown Houston, Texas. I had gotten in a fight the night before. I got dried blood on my face. I'm carrying my briefcase and I'm going to the library to do soulogy, right? And so this relative, she sees me and flags me down. She goes, "Oh my God, I can't see you like this." And so she gives me $500,
Mm-hmm.
and a hotel gives me $500. And so I remember, because you know how it is, you know, you become very estranged from your family in this environment. And so I think, you know, there was another, you know, thing where she might have given me $100 or anyway, she goes, this is it. No more. And I said, that's fine. I'm cool. Thank you so much. You know, I'm trying to get on my feet, you know, I mean, I'm homeless. But the way it was said, and then I remember when I was 20 years old and I was making, you know, whatever you made back in 1983, and I gave her $1,000, my paycheck for 2 weeks,
Right.
for her school, for her college.
Right.
So my point is this. My point is proportionate to what you have. That's how you can measure something. You know,
Right.
so that's how you measure. That's why words like these notes from these people are so powerful, you know, or even
Mhm.
Angela, you know, the way I met Angela, she was writing me stuff and it was like, wow, this is it. This is real. This is working. You know, there's something's telling me at a level that I could not explain that it's happening. And, yeah, man, it's not what we thought it was, you know, it really isn't.
No, it brings me to my point. Like when I started getting the mindset of, hey, I have abilities. I want to help people out. If that means, hey, speak to someone that deceased just so say they can have closure, they can speak their piece, whatever, or whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. I'm open to whatever. But one of the things that number one, I suck at charging. It bothers me.
Hey, look, you can't come on this path and that not be the case. Virtually all the ones I've met, they've come, you know, they've come up that path. And,
Right.
And you're right. It's still there. Money's there. It's not a bad word. It's energy, just like everything else. And every one of us has a different piece of it. Soulogy is been told you're going to bring in 5D commerce. Everything's done on gifting. So we gift here, we get gifted, we gift, you know, and it works. But other people go through different evolutions. You know, I've seen a lot of people that were very staunch at, you know, $333 an hour to, you know, to it drops. And then there's you know, work that you do for free. So, you know, I think that's another big thing about what's happening. You said it earlier. I don't know where you said, quote unquote, you said, I don't know where I am in the, you know,
Right.
And the truth is it's a spectrum and it's all the same thing, but we're never going to be able to understand it. But the bottom line is, I think another part of this thing that you were talking about with coming into our own abilities and all that, and seeing what's there that we can't see, you know, from the visible light spectrum, is stay in your own fucking lane.
Bingo.
Whatever's good for me, what's good for me may be a poison for you. You know,
Right.
I mean, this is it. Self-contained is self-contained, and if I'm trying to convince you to be a vegan or to get off the sauce or, you know, get off the weed or get off the sex or whatever the case is, Who am I trying to convince? You or me?
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
No, dude, honestly, I love this conversation because it's literally like the type of conversations that I have with myself, with my guys. And everything that you're hitting is pretty much dead nuts on. Because I'm not going to convince someone else just because I have these healing abilities. Hey, you need to follow my discipline, and this is my structure, and I'm going to create this cookie cutter bullshit. Let's just be honest. Let's just ignore how freaking awesome we are, and that we're not cookie cutter. We're all unique.
Yeah.
And if some people are much more well versed in certain things than others, freaking pursue that. Pursue that. Don't try to follow, just because so and so says I'm this type of being, I need to do this. Da, 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 da. No. Figure out who you are, what you are, you're good at, and start creating your own. As a matter of fact, just recently I shared with Angela something that kind of made me dizzy. I was thinking to myself through meditation, I'm like, okay, I have a set of eyeballs. 1, 2, and then my third eye. So I'm literally connecting the dots. I'm like, oh, that's an upright triangle. Cool. I'm still getting over a little bit of, I guess, throat activations that they've been working on me. So I could feel in my throat. I could feel in my ears. The throat's connected to the ears. So I'm connecting the dots to ear back to my throat. I'm like, oh, that's an inverted triangle. For whatever reason, because I'm just freaking a goofball this way. The only thing that's not within the triangles is my nose. Because my mind needs something to stay busy. That's how I focus on my breathing, how I focus on my nose. So I'm like, okay, let me play with this. So the triangle pointed up, I'm going to spin it clockwise at God speed. What speed is that? I have no effing clue. Let's leave it at that. Keep it simple, stupid. The one inverted, I'm going to spin it counterclockwise at God speed. So as I'm breathing this and I'm spinning these two triangles, I slowly imagine them both expanding to where they match in size and create a Merkaba literally around my melon.
Wow.
So, and then I was like, wait a second. When Merkaba spin very, very fast at Godspeed, they look like orbs. Holy cow. I literally am, my melon is now glowing just like Yeshua, just like Mother Mary's, how they're depicted in the pictures. So I'm visualizing this. Unbeknownst to me, number one, it helped me clear my head because I could feel my third eye synchronized with my voice, with my mouthpiece, synchronized with my throat. And again, because I'm experimenting, I'm creating my own whatever. Afterwards, I'm like, whoa, I'm spinning. Dude, I'm feeling a little high. Holy crap, what the hell did I just stumble into? So I had Angela do that. And she was like, dude, I don't know what the hell you just did, but as you were expressing that, I did it because my guides told me to do it. And she's like, what the did you just do to me?
Morgan talked about that. In fact, when I first met her 5 years ago, that's one of the first things she did was create that Merkaba, the pyramid and the pyramid,
right?
Bring them in and put yourself in the middle of it. Which, at the time I heard it, she said, she told me about it. I'm like, well, okay, how do you do that? You just like think yourself there. I mean, that's how raw I was. And I didn't have any clue about that there was a processes and ways and means that were beyond like books and explanations, where you could just, like for instance, create an infinity sign, put one polarity here, one polarity there, and then when it lights up in the middle, you're done. Those kind of things that make sense to me, but that is a very, very powerful thing to do that. And in fact, she was showing me about a month ago, some people were somebody had put up a post in regard to that, just like 2-3 weeks ago. I wanted to tell you about something else too, because I don't know why. Right. But so I'm really careful. I put up about 30, 40 posts a day for the Soulogy group. And I'm really careful about what I put out there. I try to make sure that it's not polarized.
Right.
I've long 5 years ago, 5 years away from being political or saying anything that, So I saw this about 3 or 4 days ago. I saw this, and I don't pay attention to the Black Lives Matters and the protests and the police brutality. I've weaned myself off of watching those videos, and some more and more neutral, like we all are.
Mhm.
But I had something really interesting happen, and I want to get your opinion on it.
Mhm.
So you know who Pete Carroll is? Pete Carroll was a
Mhm.
coach, was a college and professional football coach. I think he was with the Seattle Seahawks when they won the Super Bowl. And very cool dude, very very cool dude. And I was kind of shocked. I read this thing, and he was talking about how white America needed to understand where Black America was coming from. And it was a very well done, very neutral, very powerful rhetoric. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. You know, this dude's white. He's been, he's been involved in the university level athletics and pro athletics for a long time. So, in other words, he was in the arena in terms of, the racism and the prejudices and all the different things. And I put it up in Soulspeaks, man. And most of the time I don't go back and look and, see, but I just happened to, like the next day, saw so-and-so, my friend. It was one of my friends. I'm like you. I have this many, but I have a couple of fingers left over, right? I only have about. So it was one of my friends commented on your post. And I was like, okay, boom. So I went. And I'm telling you, there had to be 25 comments on this post.
Mhm.
And I know that it was very, even keeled the way the guy wrote it. It was actually a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you that 20 of those 25, no one came out and said anything racist, but 20 of those 25 implied and alluded to fuck those people. And I'm like, whoa. I immediately deleted it
Mhm.
because I didn't want to get a charge out of it. But the reason I'm saying this is because I thought we'd come further than that. Now, this is just one issue. We could use a whole bunch of different issues. And it just made me take another look at myself and go, whoa, are you carrying that level of prejudice where you're still bullshitting yourself and you're still talking this talk but not walking the fucking walk?
Right.
Like, oneness is fucking oneness, man.
Right.
So if you over-identify or under-identify with the police or Black Lives Matters or Latinos trying to get into the country or whatever the case is, if you're picking one side or the other, and this goes for me,
Right.
you are perpetuating this separation. And it just shocked me. It really, really shocked me. In fact, there was a couple of people that they wrote bye-bye, and one person was like, oh, I've always found this was a very neutral place. It was not a charged, it was simply a discussion or a narrative or a commentary that was saying, hey, look at this side of the equation. That's
Right.
all the guy was saying. He wasn't saying go march. He wasn't saying, he just said, look, and so it really shocked me. What's your thought on that? Do you think that we are more biased and more prejudiced and more blind, have more blind spots and more unconscious programming than we think we do?
Honestly, it's kind of challenging for even me to say, growing up being Mexicano, per se. You know what I mean? Because I can beat the drum of coming to this country and blah 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 and whatever. But honestly, to me, is literally get over yourself, get over your egoic programming, get over whatever we have been spoon fed and force fed for so many years.
Yeah.
To me, what that boils down to is look inside yourself. Are you still going to continue beating that drum, or are you going to put that drum aside? Are you going to pull that bullshit out of you and give it back to source? Thank you for that lesson. I appreciate it. I love you. I forgive myself, number one, for falling for some baloney that just causes more dissension between my brothers and sisters, regardless of the freaking pigmentation of their skin. Because there's only one race on it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me stop. Let me stop before I get myself in trouble.
Yeah, hey, you come from the same place I do, man. I know they're telling you to tamp it down a little bit.
What I'm saying is, okay, let me speak. My God, guys. On the planet that we are aware of, there's one human race.
Yeah.
We can go into the inner earth people. We can go into, but in our culture, human culture, there's one race in my eyes. You can either. I don't believe in saying I'm going to be part of this team or that team. I'm the team. I'm part of the whole team.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, we have all in many lives, whether it's this one or past, we have all played those, pardon my French, fucked up roles, which we in our lives, and by the same token, we have been on the receiving of that. So if people were to actually wake up to realize all this program we see around us, we all have played those roles. And if people actually had this, let's just say this data dump memory recall, holy cow, now you're playing that role that I played in this lifetime. Holy crap, now I understand why you're playing that role. But I feel that once people start to realize that there's no freaking, oh, this versus that and blah, blah, what game, programming, whatever you used to call it, you choose to play in, that's your own responsibility and that's your own decision. I choose not to play in that, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I just see it, I look at this stuff happen. It shocked me because it really made me go, oh, dude, what are you missing in yourself?
Right.
Because I know I was beyond, hey, I'm going to engage this and counter this. And I'm way beyond that. I actually thought it was a beautiful, interesting, thought-provoking, because to me, that's one of the best things. That's one of the things I've always felt like, check myself. What are you putting out there? And I have by no means a perfect record, but what are you putting out there? Is it thought-provoking? Will it at least get people thinking? And not only that, what are you learning? Like on this program, like, I hear things, I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. That's code. That's expansive. But yeah, so, I mean, it's like, to me, it's good to be, somebody just wrote it a minute ago. They said something about, things coming out to be released, basically. I think it was my friend Dorian. As soon as we notice a program, it is gone. Some are holding on a little longer than most. We are the human race. And I think, too, that's the thing, too, though, the whole stay in your own lane thing and victimhood.
Right.
So victimhood isn't just me being a victim. Victimhood is me going, oh, look at those people over there, and being too polarized in what we're substantiating or rationalizing within ourselves as a defense for the oppressed, which is true. But energetically, we're talking energy here. We're not talking about, we're never going to get to the 0 point if we're over-identifying with one polarity or the other. And I'm sorry, that's just the way it goes. But if you think about what's been in the press a lot, energetically, let's just say sexual molestation of children, of women, of men, of boys, whatever. Now, the whole idea is we know we're not separate from anything. We cannot divorce ourselves from anything outside of us. We know that's us. In some way, we may not be able to get it. But my point is, and I learned this through Morgan, where do you do that? Where do you do that same thing energetically? Where have I suppressed somebody, oppressed somebody, traumatized somebody, energetically molested somebody?
Right.
Because it's the same damn thing. It's just on the surface, it looks different. And this is going deep now. And I think this is where we're at. We're getting at this point now where we're starting to peel the onion and there ain't no layers left. There's just a big fat mirror that's looking you back in the face saying, own this shit or pay the price because the cosmic 2x4 is going to come hit you in the head.
No, and I can agree with you more because that's been my observation, that pretty much you get to the point where there's no more left but the crud, the remainder of either you clean this shit up or, like you said, now that before we had a little bit of an alibi. You're not aware, you're asleep,
That's
you're
right.
asleep, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now you're aware. You know better. And this has been my own personal experience with my guides and with my higher self specifically, that if I'm being a freaking butthead and I'm not addressing something that I should address, oh, there's going to be a third 2x4 or a 4x6, depending on how hard.
2x10, 2x12, right? Or a 4x6. How about one of those that you put up the? Yeah, I mean, I've got a really good friend of mine that I've met on the internet, and when I first came out the streets several years ago, he was one of the first people that I really ran into, and he's been on a few times over the years. And I watched him last night on a show that I produced or we produced, and he just nailed it, man. He nailed it about COVID and about masks and he's a very unassuming type of dude.
Right.
So I hit him up and I'm like, dude, why don't we collaborate? Instead of a Q&A, why don't we just have a discussion on these topics? Because I really feel like there needs to be a bridge. There needs to be an offering for all parties involved. How do we get to the promised land if we've all got to walk the same soul highway and you both in these positions are diametrically opposed to each other? You
Right.
have to walk the same piece of earth. You
Right.
have to walk together. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. God's not going to make an exception for anybody. And this is what we're coming to. So to
Right.
your point, yeah, we didn't know. But, as my wife pointed out to me many times in my education, the higher your awareness, what happens? You reach a higher vantage point. You're able to see places you couldn't see before.
Right.
To include shadow. So
The
own
more,
it.
yeah. And that's that's fun. I love that you own it, because that's something that Samuel has been telling me every single time, whether good, better, and different. You did it, own it. You healed.
Did you say Samuel?
Samuel, Chamuel.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure.
Or Camael.
No, I get you. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I get what you're saying.
Right. No, that's been one of my big lessons that I'm constantly being reminded. But because sometimes there's humbleness and then there's being shy about it, and there is that fine line between humble and okay, now you're shying away. If
Like overly, yeah, I get you. Yeah.
You're right, right. To where it's like, no, you did a good job, own it. Hey, you screwed up. That's fine. Now you're aware. You won't screw up next time. Own it. Because in everything, you're constantly learning. You're constantly expanding. Don't beat yourself down. Allow yourself to fall down and pick yourself back up.
Yeah.
So
That's another thing I'm noticing too, is I'm noticing that, so like you said, when we do something, we can almost immediately now in this energy, we can almost immediately bring it back to a balanced point.
right,
Where we've offended or we've projected, acted out, because we're all working our way through this thing, man. So it's going to happen sometimes. It seems to be happening less and less and less and less, right? Even though some things look louder. But my point is it's one thing to go balance within yourself, knowing that that's going to create a certain frequency that's then going to attract the same frequency to it, to include helping external frequencies, let's just say energies transform, right? But we are in this physical body. We have the gift of the throat chakra, which is to me like the meeting point of the non-physical and the physical, because it has both non-physical and physical attributes. Your mouth moves, that's physical, and the voice is non-physical.
right,
And I think this is a big part of our transition, about our transformation, is to say it. That's what's back to you being pushed out there, Angela being pushed out there to speak, so many other people I talk to. So if I do something, either unconsciously or and I figure it out, I can go back to you and go, hey, you know what, dude? I fucked up. Sorry about that. Okay. That that to me is something I've been noticing. I've actually watched people do this in post. Or they'll come out one day and go, la, 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 and they'll come back the next day and go, oh man, I was totally off the rocker yesterday. And it just
Yeah.
neutralizes everything. And I think it takes a lot of courage to do that because we've been in this paradigm where everything gets swept under the rug.
Right.
Like, you ever have a situation, either you or with someone else, where there's a certain thing happens and you don't talk anymore. And then you see him like a year later and it's just like, hey, what's up, man? And it's still there, but you just kind of forget about it. But you don't forget about it. This is how all this shit got shrouded onto our souls, and it's all perfect. But I mean, this is how it happens. It becomes an unaddressed, energy that, like everything else, like everyone else, wants to be loved and loved.
To that point about things being swept under the rug, where really, and you've already, I know this, I'm coming back around, is anything that's been swept under the rug has to be addressed.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap if people stop talking to each other a month, a year, years, whatever. You at some point have to address that. Even if you don't address it with the other person, at least address it on your end. So you're clearing that garbage out of you.
Good point. That's a great point. I'm just saying that, yeah, absolutely. If you do it in yourself, I mean, in the long run, it's all going to align. But I think we have the ability now. Like we've had people come on here, channelers like yourself. I mean, people that come on here and tap in, and they'll be like, okay, sometime in 2020, and I can't give you exact dates, but you guys have hit a point now that the angels and the archangels and the galactics and the elementals, nobody knows how you're going to get it done, how far you're going to take it. You guys have taken control. You've taken your own sovereignty collectively, at least in the energetic field.
Right.
And now how's it going to play out?
Mm-hmm.
That I forgot why I was saying that, which means I need to take a break before the next show. So we'll have to get together again.
Yeah, dude, anytime.
Yeah, we'll have to get together again. And yeah, man, do you speak Spanish?
Claro que sí.
Huh?
Por supuesto.
You speak more than I do.
I thought you were saying just like so you could respond to me in Spanish. That's
no, I only know how to say. I perfected how to say. I speak very little Spanish, but I'm learning. Hablo español un poquito, pero estoy tratando de aprender. I can't speak other stuff, but I can't think in Spanish. But I was just making a joke.
Yeah, no, it's all good, dude. It's all good. But yeah, honestly, if we were to meet up, I'm not gonna lie, we probably wouldn't even sleep for 2 or 3 days, maybe 4.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe we'll rendezvous up in Montana and go eat some of that good food.
Oh, dude.
I would love to try the new tomato hallucinogenics that she's growing up there. I'm kidding. I can't even think about doing anything like that anymore. That's how lit this energy is. Like I would be wasting my time. Now, I'm not saying this for everybody, but I'd be wasting my time to go eat mushrooms or take LSD at this point, or even ayahuasca, or whatever. Like this energy is so lit and so available that if we want to go have dinner on Venus tonight, we can do it. So,
dude, I'm not gonna lie. If people were to go over there and literally eat their produce, no kidding, within a couple of days, if you have done drugs or whatever, the sensation of being high, it's way surpasses that. Because then all of a sudden, if you thought you were already intuitive enough, hold on to your freaking seatbelt because it's going to be a hell of a freaking rocket ride.
Well,
That's just my
experience. Sense. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes total sense. That because she was talking about how they talk to it and other people they put products out there. They do that. They'll infuse it. They'll infuse it with certain things, just like that Dr. Emoto with the water. I mean, it's all the same deal. I just think the more we literalize it, the more, the better the alignment. It's not even about we'll be in alignment. I think the better the alignment will be. So that's why the voice comes in, because to me that's a very physical thing, and it's like the epitome of our free will expression. Right. Is to say it, like it's just to say it, and I think we're being pushed that direction.
Yeah,
we'll have to get Angela and what's her husband's name? Johnny. Yeah, we'll have to get them on here, and we'll have a roundtable discussion or something like that. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I don't mean to. Yeah, I'm just I'm flittering around over here. You know how it is when you're in 3 different places at one time. I'm still on the mountain with you. And the centaur thing. Wow, that's been a big deal for me. The centaur.
That's fine. And from then on, I connected with Carnunos, which is a Celtic god, the twin flame of goddess Bridget. He's got antlers like a deer and horns like a ram, upper torso of a human, and bottom of a deer. He's been helping me out a lot. Wow. He's a character.
I haven't had a lot of. I've got this thing about centaurs. Pan is a big deal for me. Pan, ever since I was a little kid, and but I've not had a lot of experience. I've seen one in Sedona when Anubis was visiting. that was pretty cheap. Yeah, I'm going back in about 2 weeks, and I expect to see him because actually every time I've been there I've seen him. So he's Anubis. Yeah. All right, brother. I wish you the best. All blessings to you and yours. I look forward to collaborating with you again in the future. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. We are going to be back in 14 minutes with a lady by the name of Lauren, and I can't remember her last name, but she does some incredible, absolutely mind-blowing, that I've only seen 2 other people do something similar, but some incredible light language, graphic expressions that are just phenomenal. So this ought to be interesting. She's from Australia. We'll be back in 13 minutes. See you later, brother. Take care.
Take it easy. Thank you, man.
Thank you, everybody.